And so, Paul, we want to welcome you to our podcast, and we are sincerely thankful to you for coming on here. We have with us the podcast crew. I'm Warren from the state of Washington. And guys, introduce yourselves to Paul.
I am Austin from Mumbai, India.
I'm Dennis. I'm from Pennsylvania. Welcome, Paul. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Nice to meet you three.
And Paul, let's get to this. And we're talking about an app called the Clew, Clew. Is that the right pronunciation of the app, Paul?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And this is an iOS app, or like I like to call it, the fruit veil. And really, I really like the app. It's something that I think blind people will appreciate. But Paul, I want you to take us to the history. I'm the historian, and I'm fascinated as to what led people or developers to developing such an app, and what the reasons are. Could you take us down the history of Clew?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think maybe I'll say just a little bit about my personal background to kind of set the stage for that. So
that's right.
So right now I'm a college professor. So I work at a small engineering college called Olin College of Engineering. We have it's all undergraduate. We have a total of 340 students at the college. So I started my job at Olin. I've been there. This is my 8th year at Olin. My background, so my PhD is in machine learning and robotics. And that was like the stuff I was really interested in when I was in graduate school at UC San Diego. And then I came to Boston to take this job at Olin College. And I had been, some ideas of ways in which the work I was doing in machine learning and robotics could play a role in assistive technology. It was an area that I'd always thought was, interesting. I'd never really had a chance to do anything kind of in that area. So I came to Olin. One of the things about Olin College is there's a big focus on user-centered design and trying to understand how we can, create things that people will really enjoy and really respond to them as whole people, and don't just try to create technology for technology's sake. So that combination of my sort of interest in doing something in assistive technology and sort of the focus on sort of design thinking that is a hallmark of Olin College, that kind of came together when I started at Olin, and that was sort of the impetus to kind of explore the area more. And so I started off at Olin. I was working on a lot of different projects, some of which related to assistive technology, some of which didn't. And I just found the more I worked in the area of sort of assistive technology, the more just sort of interested I got in the field. So I started, talking to a lot of folks in the community, especially in the blind community, and making contacts with a lot of the organizations around the Boston area. And I also have a lot of other colleagues, other faculty members that also work in different sort of facets of either assistive technology or disability studies, also, folks from different disciplinary backgrounds as well. And so just through that kind of accommodation, I've been working with students on various projects in this area for about 6 years now. And so we sort of started getting excited about the specific idea of Clew because, we had been talking to folks in the community, and we realized that the area of sort of orientation and mobility was an area where there were some tools available, but there were still a lot of areas where improvements could be made, and particularly things like indoor navigation and, sort of finding objects in indoor environments. Those things kind of came to the front of our discussions with users. And we kind of started off, prototyping different versions of it, having some success, but realizing a lot of the technologies we're working on were just really hard. It was really hard to get them to work well. And then I think the big moment was all of a sudden, mainstream technology companies like Google and Apple started bringing out this sort of augmented reality capabilities to their apps. And that was what really kind of set the stage for the creation of Clew. And I can talk more about that specifically in a bit. But yeah, that's the kind of the main kind of, kind of like path that led me here. But yeah, I've just been doing more and more of my work in this area. I teach courses on accessibility and technology to students. I'm part of different organizations and accessibility. So it's really where my passion is in terms of my work that I do.
Awesome. Now, I know this is an iOS app. Are there plans for an Android app? And if so, do you have a rough time frame as when we could expect an Android app? Where does that stand?
Yeah, I think it would be a worthy thing to do. I don't have a specific plan for it right now. So I wouldn't be able to give a specific time frame. It's definitely something that's kind of been on the radar for a while. Yeah, and actually some of the early prototypes we did, we used to do a lot of our work with an older platform. Google has their AR Core, which is the one that sort of came out around the same time as ARKit on the iPhone. But an older platform we worked with called Project Tango, we used to work with that one. So we have done stuff with Android in the past. We just never done anything that made it all the way to a production level app.
Is that kind of the goal for 2021 to try to get an Android version out there, because there are blind Android users? I think that's a common myth that Android's not accessible, and that's
I totally agree with that. I think it is. Yeah, I think it is one of the goals definitely that we'd be working towards. But I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to commit to like a firm timeline on it. But that is something that definitely been thought about and is definitely part of the agenda.
Yeah, Paul, because I really like the app. I tried using it here at my home, a fairly large home, and I tried mapping my way from upstairs, going to the bathroom downstairs, and I was pleasantly surprised when it guided me back to my desk where I was sitting upstairs here. And then I tried doing it from the mailbox, or from my house to the mailbox, because we live in the rural area where the mailboxes are out there. So I was able to do that. And I'm like, this is what we really need, because the whole idea, for instance, if I have someone, say I'm at a hotel or at, a restaurant somewhere, hope we get back to going to restaurants again, and I ask maybe a family member, take me to the bathroom, I should be able to map my way to that bathroom and be able to find my way back to the table where I was. So I see the usefulness of this app as it becomes a very important part of our living. And I was so happy when that thing guided me back. And frankly, I would love to see that, come to Android. I know you've told me that you're not sure, but I'm an optimist, Paul, and I'm thinking that somehow down the line, you're going to bring this baby to those of us back in the land of Android.
Okay, well, this is definitely a good push in that direction for sure, this conversation. So that's definitely good.
Now, one other question that popped into mind. Is there a charge for this app? If so, what is the charge? Is it a subscription model? Is it a one-off?
This app is totally free. So I've been developing it basically with support from various foundations and granting agencies. So most notably, it's the Peabody Foundation, which is a Boston area foundation that gives money to projects that help with mostly oriented towards young people who have either disabilities or who have been injured severely. And then also the National Science Foundation. So that's what I've used to support the development of the app. So there's no cost that is incurred by the users of the app itself.
That's awesome. And I also want to echo Warren's sentiments that the sooner this is on both platforms, the better, because it will help people. It is an awesome app. It can definitely do a lot of good. I can see where it would be good for, granted, we're not doing a whole lot with conferences and things like that. But even if you're at a airport, and you're at this terminal, you need to go to the restaurant down the hall, at the other end of the terminal, you could use it to map that.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there are a ton of use cases. And as we get back to some sense of hopefully normalcy, the use cases will skyrocket, hopefully, for this app. And the more platforms it's on for audience and the more recognition you can get. And hopefully within that, other people come and say, hey, I'll help you support the development of this app. And, it can just help you grow this thing even wider.
Yeah, that's definitely a great thought. Yeah, I think I would definitely hope for that, something along those lines.
And if you don't have it, and there's something you may want to consider, some kind of tip jar where people could donate as they could afford it.
Now, Paul, I want to dial back to something you mentioned earlier about assistive technology.
Sure.
Now, what drew you into assistive technology? Do you know any personally know any blind people, or
honestly,
have any relatives that are blind or something of that sort?
It's interesting. I actually don't have any like personal connection at all. I think initially it was really like a feeling that I wanted. So I'd been working a lot on these robotics projects, but they were like robotics projects that were not really like things that were going to be immediately useful in the world. Like my thesis, I made a giant robotic baby, if you could believe that.
I love it.
It's a very terrifying robot, but I don't know. I was just really hungry to like do something that like made a difference. And so I think it was, I wouldn't say like by accident that I like sort of got into this area, but it was really sort of like a way I could see there was something kind of in close proximity to what I was doing that I was like, okay, yes, I can make a difference in this way. And I think that was my initial attraction. And then I think like what's kept me in the area is I think it's just such a multifaceted like set of issues and problems, right? Like it's not just about technology. It's about, like the way that like social systems are set up, and it involves just like so many different ways of thinking about things. And I think that's what's in part like kept me really interested in been like ways in which I've kind of grown over the years to like understand different ways to kind of think about this area. So I don't know. I mean, I think that's been good. And then I think just I have made a lot of connections and contacts with people in the community. So that's also been a key feature, I think, of growing my connection and commitment to the area. Like Boston has a lot of great, institutions for, there's like Perkins and Carroll Center here and some other really great institutions that I've been working with over the years.
That's right. Now, Austin, you got any questions for Paul?
Paul, I don't have any iPhone or anything, but I have an iPad, which is running iPad OS. So will that app work on that also?
Yeah, it does. It works on iPad as well. And one thing that's nice about the app is it doesn't require any sort of like internet connection. So even if you don't have like a data plan or something for like an iPad, it will also work on that.
And that's the thing I wanted to mention, because I am one of those that always want to try something offline, and I actually had put on my phone into airplane mode when I tried doing that, and it worked. Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was something I was going to mention, that this app would work whether you have internet connectivity or not. And it's such a good thing because not everyone may have access to data, most especially places around the world where internet access is very expensive or whatever the case may be. So it works offline. So that's really good.
Yeah, that's definitely nice. And then, we do have a pretty large amount of the users of the app are from outside of the United States as well. So it's a pretty big international group of folks using it.
Yeah, so really, we're thankful that you are able to come. And so, we're thankful, Paul, that you are able to come on and discuss this. And, I'm kind of looking forward to, maybe down the road, you could come back again, sometime this year, say maybe somewhere in, August or September.
Sure.
We would want to call on you again to see if there are any updates and what's going on. And maybe one of your students may take on the challenge of helping you, saying, hey, let's get this thing into the Android land. Or something like that. That would be cool.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. I'd love to do that.
One thing that will happen is if Clew comes to Android, it'll really take off in India, because in India, there is a lot of need for mapping outside areas and indoor areas and things.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I know that India is a big Android market, is from what I understand, at least among the blind community. I think that's true.
It is very true. We have a large followership of Android in India, and just around the world in general. There are more Android users. So this is why we always cry about wanting developers
Right.
to bring this because Android devices are easier, are more accessible. I mean, affordable is the language or the word I'm trying to use. So when we do things like this, you are actually helping a lot of blind people, especially in third world countries where mobility is a challenge. And so really making this thing available on Android is a huge, huge help to the blind community.
That's really great to hear. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, definitely. Let's do something later on in the year. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, if it's before September and you have an update, get in touch with us. We'd have you on anytime. It has definitely been a pleasure, and I definitely do look forward to seeing this on Android. Hopefully sooner
I'll be bugging Paul about it. So.
I mean, also you can contact us privately if you want people to test.
Okay.
I'd be more than willing to help test it.
Absolutely.
Definitely, we will be.
Sure. Okay. Well, yeah, I look forward to the challenge for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. And we wouldn't take any more of your time than what we already have. And again, we thank you that you are able to have time to come on here to the Blind Android Users Podcast. And thanks again for coming on.
Okay, thanks, everybody. It was great to meet you all, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Paul.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, thank you so much, Paul, for coming on to the podcast today. And we are so thankful that you have addressed our listeners today. And we look forward to having you come back because, guys, we definitely want to have him come back. So the reason why, even though this thing is just on iOS or Fruitvale, there are many of our listeners that use both platforms. And so we're looking forward to having Paul come back, Professor Paul Ruvolo come back, and talk to us about it more, because now that we've kind of like given him the challenge to kind of bring us some Android goodness to the app. So we thank Paul for his appearance. Austin, anything?
It was a fabulous interview, and I like that Paul has done something with artificial intelligence, and I hope he brings that more to Android. He put some artificial intelligence into his app, but it was a nice interview.
I'm hopeful. It'd be nice if we have something by summertime.
That's right. I don't think that we would, but I'm thinking maybe toward the end of the year, probably, or early next year. The probability is that probably we may have maybe an early thing. We'll see what happens. And my hope is that maybe one of his students may take this as a challenge, as a project, maybe like a project for their, end of year or whatever, and try to take on developing it for Android. Since it's a technical school, I'm kind of hoping that one of the students might. And, I think he should open it up to the students and see who can do that. And most especially if he's getting some funding from different sources like the, National Science Foundation or the Peabody.